All right, there's Mark. Okay, and we have a bunch of people on the call now. Wow.
Yeah, we had 12, now it's 16.
Okay, great, great, great. So here we go. This is X KOTE, how to make your car look brand new again without spending countless hours on paint correction. So I don't know why it's not going to the current slide. Okay, here we go. So here's we're going to go from the top here. Who is this for, and why should you listen to this presentation? We are working directly with professional detailers who use ceramic coatings, specifically ones that want to cut down the time of paint correction, do more jobs in the same amount of time, and X KOTE is definitely something that you can use to do just that. We're going to get into why that's possible, and this is my truck here that was completely scratched from tip to toe. X KOTE'd it, looks amazing. 10 years old. So at the end of this webinar, you'll get a clear understanding of what X KOTE is, and why why you need to the who, what, how, and why, and if you're ready to sign up for the training. Hold on, it's a wee bit noisy, so I'm gonna try to. All right. Okay, so this is a car that we just did in Pittsburgh. This was a Chevy Tahoe, completely scratched, and we did it head to toe there, and it looked amazing when we were finished.
And how long, Dave, is that job typically? A job that size of that vehicle, you should be probably about 4.5 hours start to finish, including prep and application. On a smaller vehicle, that's going to range from 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And when you get something of this size, you could be in the 4 to 5 hour range. That start to finish prep and coated, and you see the picture on the right, brand new paint, literally.
Yeah, it looked amazing. When we brought it outside, it was just a mirror, and this car was completely hammered. You see those scratches, but we did take off emblems. We did do a couple extra stuff, and we saw some pretty major scratches that we put a little wet sanding on. So that took about 4 or 5 hours because it was late in the night and I'd flown across the country. But yeah, that was a pretty amazing transformation. Let's see. Well, it doesn't want to go. Okay, so if you guys stick around to the end of this conversation and webinar, I'm going to provide you some of my awesome water-based spray-on ceramic coating. So here's a 1993 4Runner, was completely trashed, and we did this during training a few weeks ago, and it looks pretty amazing. So Mark, can you see the slide? It seems like I
can see it.
This is kind of
makes me sound pretty good.
All right. Yes. This is Mark Johnson or Mark Johnston. He is in Port Moody. He's calling us. He's here today with us. And did you want to go from the top and tell you about yourself, Mark?
Well, I guess in a nutshell, this whole project started in 1990 when I acquired a small body shop. And it was about the time when clear coats just started to come out in the market. And we started playing around with these clear coats. And I thought, wouldn't it be a wonderful idea if you could just take this clear coat and wipe it on instead of going through this whole process of sanding it down, putting it in the booth, disassembling, etc. And that's where the idea of X KOTE first started. And we played around with that for some time, and it kind of got shelved for about 10 years shortly after. About 10 years later, I decided to revisit this, and I got serious about it, and I hired a brilliant team. They were a chemical engineer and a chemist, and the timing was perfect because they had just sold their company this new technology that they were at the forefront of fluoro polymers, what we now know as fluorinated clear coats, and they were really at the forefront of that whole technology. And they sold their company to the U.S. military, so they had a wad of cash and nothing to do. So they came to work with me, and what we engineered was the finished X KOTE product. And we took a 2-component clear coat, which is no different than a spray-on clear coat. However, a spray-on clear coat won't level like it does. So that was one challenge that we did extremely well. But the biggest challenge was getting that clear coat to adhere to a smooth surface, because sanding the surface down was just not cost effective, and it really didn't accomplish anything other than spraying. So we needed a clear coat that would adhere chemically to that smooth surface, and that's what we came up with. And X KOTE actually cross-links, or in layman's terms, it's not really accurate, but in layman's terms, it melts into the existing clear coat and becomes one with it. So when you respray a vehicle, what you do is you sand it down, and that sanding, those sand marks is what gives you the adhesion on that panel. But you still have 2 coatings. You have the original coating and you have the new coating, and they're held together by that sanding. X KOTE is very different in that it becomes one with that. So delamination is virtually impossible unless you're coating over something that, some sort of barrier in that paint. If you're coating over well-prepped bare paint, adhesion is 100%, and delamination or failure is impossible. That will last as long as the factory coating. The factory coating literally has to come off with it for it to come off, or you'd have to sand or buff through it. So in 2004, back up about 3 years, 2001,
Hey,
we
Mark,
had a finished product.
Hey,
Go
Mark,
ahead.
can you adjust your camera so we can see just the top of your face?
I was just about to say that.
There we go. Go ahead.
see me now?
All right, now I can see it was just your jaw going up and down, so now we can see you.
Oh, you don't like my jaw? That's my best feature, I think.
Yes.
So, anyways, so about 2001, I owned several car dealerships, and I really, my main motive was to restore my cars in my inventory. We are very high volume dealers, and I wanted to restore these cars and make them lot ready in a shorter amount of time. And it was working very well. And we had so much demand from other dealers at that time. I was very well known in the city, to coat their cars. And so we thought, man, we're onto something here. So we started coating cars. And when we sold the car, we offered the customer a full year of quarterly detail and oil changes for free if they brought it back at a scheduled date. And I can tell you 100% of those people did. And we did lots of those cars. And we tracked those cars over a year just to see how they held up. And we are extremely happy. We did that actually for about 2 years. We're very happy with the results. And in 2004, we finally came up with a name for this thing that we had been working on for years. And we called it X KOTE. And we incorporated the company X KOTE Paint Renewal Systems in 2004. And immediately started licensing and certifying dealers. Fast forward to today, and we have over 200 certified dealers worldwide, and we are gaining, this year we'll probably do another 200 to 300. So we've really started to snowball, and it's really nice to see the level of professionals and the amount of really good professional people that are joining our network. And that's kind of where we strive to be, is, the guys that are at the top of their game. That's who we want representing our brand, because, generally they do really good work. So, the guys that have joined in, there's a lot of you that are at the top of your game, and I'm really glad to have you on board with us. Okay, Dave, I'll let you take over.
Okay, great. And let's go to the next slide, if it will let me. Okay, so we have some cans there. And then this is, who's this? Okay, this is me. You basically can read all that there. I'm here in Tacoma, Washington. I run Pearl Pearl Nano, and also helped with X KOTE, and invented the first non-kerosene waterless car wash product in 1998. I've sold in over 100 countries, sales and marketing expert, and we're taking X KOTE everywhere. Okay, we got some motley crew here. We have Jesse and Chris Tilton from Coyote Detailing in Phoenix. We were just there last weekend. Okay, can we really, Mark, can we really make cars look brand new again? What do you think?
Well, I can tell you this, is that we sell clear coat, just like PPG, just like Sherwin-Williams, just like BASF. We sell clear coat. And if you look at any one of those brands and you look at the finished product, it's only as good as the painter. We are no different. We sell clear coat. And I can tell you this, we can take a Bentley out of the showroom and coat one door and put it in a good light. And if it's done by a professional that does good quality work, you will see a definite difference in the depth and clarity in that paint, how the metallic pops, the depth of it is just insane. But it's only as good as the person putting it on the car. And like painting, it's only as good as the prep. So when you take a look at this, car that is 20 years old, that's a quality installation. And during this whole journey, it starts with a 2-day intense hands-on training course that's going to certify you, and it's going to show you how to become a professional so you can do a job like that. But that car that you see, you cannot achieve those results with a buffer. I don't care how good you are, because you can only bring it back to new. You can't make it better than new.
Yep.
We can.
Yep. The clarity is unreal. And as you said, Mark, I don't care how good you are with your paint correction and all that. You can't achieve that kind of clarity. I've seen it with my own eyes. Love it.
Okay, great. And we actually call this, it's not exactly paint correction, we call it paint correction on steroids. So it's actually So we're going to move on to the next slide here. And here's Paul doing a Porsche. So what is X KOTE? X KOTE is the same 2K clear coat that's already on your car. It's the same thing that you clean and polish and protect every day. So we're able to put on a layer on top of the clear coat that bonds directly with it. And we don't need a body shop. That stuff's very labor intensive and very expensive. And did you want to go into detail about that, Mark?
Yeah. So X KOTE, like anything, has its limitations. If it's next time, Dave, we do a webinar, we'll put that paint chart up here. But most of you know how paint works, and you've got your primer, your base coat, and then your top coat, clear coat, or in the case of a single stage paint, that goes from the primer up. We can repair 100% a scratch that has not penetrated the primer coat, because if you clear coat primer, you get shiny primer. It's not going to repair that. In that case, we would do a fine touch up after the repair is done. But we can repair deep damage. Let's take, for example, most clear coat is about 50 microns thick. That's 2 mils, 25 mils, 25 microns per mil. And if you had a scratch that was 25 or 30 microns deep out of the 50 microns, and it might be only down to 45 or 40 microns if it's been buffed a few times. So how would you remove that scratch by traditional means? You probably couldn't without going through. And if you were managed to get down that deep without going through, there's no clear left on that paint, and you're really not doing that person a favor. With X KOTE, on the other hand, we're going to put a layer on top, and it's going to fill that damage instead of taking the clear down to that point. So you're light years ahead as far as a proper repair. You're not taking off clear, you're adding clear. Now, how much do we add? Not much, 5 to 6 microns. And why don't we add more? Because we simply do not want that vehicle to look any different than it did the day it drove out of the factory other than we can add some extra depth and clarity to the paint, a little bit more gloss. But we don't want it to look like it has a thick coating on top. We want it to look absolutely factory. That way we can take a Bentley and we can coat that. You could send that Bentley back to the factory if it was done by a skilled technician, and the guy at the factory that did the finishing on it would probably get an award. But they wouldn't know there was coating on it if it was done properly. So our goal is to make that paint new in respect of the depth, the thickness of that clear coat, and add some depth and clarity to it. So I think that pretty much covers it, Dave. Is there anything else that?
No, I think that's it. I mean, versus a body shop, you know, this is something. Tell us the downfalls of you know, you kind of already did in the beginning, but how about versus a body shop?
Well, you know, if you take a car in to get a vehicle painted because it's just beat up. For example, if you take that that Tahoe, you have three choices. The guy who owns that Tahoe has three choices. He can take it to a body shop and get it resprayed. In my city, nobody would touch that for less than $7,000 or $8,000. It's just, they don't even want that job. They want collision work. They don't want repaints. You know, most places would quote you $10,000 because they don't want it. If you took it to a highly skilled detail shop that did paint correction, you're probably 25, 30 hours in that. So what are you going to pay for that? And you're going to take a lot of your clear off. We would spend 4.5 hours on that vehicle and get the same results you would if you resprayed that vehicle, except we can now say that it's still original paint, and that has some great value on most cars. Most people don't want to repaint their car. It's sort of a last resort. It's an expensive endeavor. We want to restore that paint the best we can, and that's what we do. And we do it faster, and we do it better than anybody on earth.
Excellent.
If I may, Mark and Dave,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt you guys, but a lot of new guys, they asking me for one thing, or that's one of the questions, if you will. How much you adding back with the X KOTE about talking about the microns? Dave, you
Not
told
much.
me that, but I want
Not
you
much.
to.
Five or six microns, and
it's
you know, it
thin as
depends.
paper.
It depends, but it's not a lot. We are not trying to make that paint thicker than factory. We want to keep it very close to that. What we want to accomplish is we want to put a top layer on there that's going to take away any swirls, holograms, fill any scratches that are, you know, above the primer. That's our goal, and we do it very well. Anything beyond that, you are just really depreciating a car that has original paint on it. We want to maintain that original paint. And in respect to, you know, we get asked a lot, well, what if the damage has gone through to the primer coat and we've got a scratch, let's say a key scratch? Well, when we have a customer that comes into our center, the first thing we do is we do a walk around the vehicle. And we point out the damage that has gone right through. And we may walk around, let's say there is a scratch down the side of the vehicle. I will explain to the customer that, you know, that scratch is 12 inches long, and I can see clearly that 2 inches of that 12 inches has gone through the primer and the rest is not. I'm going to tell that customer that when we clear coat it, most of that damage is going to be repaired, but there's a section about 2 inches in that scratches that have gone right through. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a fine brush touch up on that. And you're going to see it if you look closely. Otherwise, it's going to be considerably better than what you see and not that noticeable. And
You can touch up after the X KOTE, right?
we always do it after the X KOTE, and people ask why. The reason is this, is because if we touched up that 12-inch scratch first, we'd have a 12-inch touch-up, which is very noticeable. If we X KOTE it first and repair as much as we possibly can, it minimizes the amount of touch-up. Also, if we put the touch-up on first, because you're hand applying this and you're wiping it on, you would smear that touch up right off. So, we do over 500 vehicles in our own corporate center every year. And when we tell a customer, this is what to expect, and we do the walk around and we show them, I can tell you that 99% of people are okay with that touch up if it's a minor touch up, rather than spending the money to repaint it, because frankly, sometimes that panel costs as much to repaint just a single panel as we can do the entire vehicle for. So when we do our job and give the customer realistic expectations of what to expect, and I tell the customer, I say, at first glance, you are going to see a brand new vehicle. On close inspection, you're going to see some minor flaws in the areas that I pointed out because they're going to be touch-ups, but overall, you will have a brand new vehicle. And that is the truth, and that's what we deliver. So when they walk up and they see, they look closely and they see those very fine touch-ups, they're not disappointed at all because you've told them about it. Go ahead, Dave.
Right. Yes. All right, here we got Trey on the Audi. All right, well, how does it work? How does X KOTE work, Mark? You kind of got into that a little bit, but let's go with this slide.
So the difference between X KOTE and any other two-component clear coat in the market, and for those of you who don't know what a two-component clear coat is, any coating on planet Earth that goes on any form of transportation at the factory is a two-component coating, whether it's a single stage, a gel coat, a clear coat. And what that means is that there's a hardener or an activator added before it gets painted. And what that does is it forms what we call a cross-link structure, and it gives it that durability that we get that lasts decades and decades if you take care of it. A single component clear coat or coating is not a permanent clear coat. And over the years, people have said to me, is that like Polyglow, for example, or is that like Optimum OptiCoat's clear coat restorer? No, those are single component coatings, and they are not a permanent coating. They will not wear and tear. They will not perform like a factory coating. If they did, the factory would use that. We put on exactly what the factory sprayed on, exactly what a good quality body shop would spray on. The difference is how it's applied, that it self-levels, and how it actually bonds to that original coating. It cross-links very deeply and becomes one with that coating instead of sitting on top like a regular clear coat. The X KOTE cures in less than a day. Typically in our center, we'll do 3 to 4 cars a day. We do our prep during the day, and then we do all the other things that we do in our daily routine. And about 4 o'clock or 4:30, my technician puts on a respirator and some gloves, and he coats those 3 to 4 cars. We go home at 6 o'clock, and the next morning when we come to work, those cars are ready for a wax, a ceramic coating, whatever you may be, whatever you're going to put on that, and it's ready to be delivered to the customer. But we can actually ceramic coat it in less than 24 hours. Go ahead, Dave.
Do you remember this Porsche before we did it?
Is that the one that was in
Tacoma that had all the water spots and the swirls?
Oh yeah,
layered on top of each other. So yeah, that was a rough one. Anyways, it turned out great. Let's see.
If I may, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, guys. A lot of guys ask me, or even what you told me when you trained me, what is the best temperature once you're going to start applying X KOTE?
Yeah, so ultimately, if you can coat under 75 degrees or under 80 degrees, it's going to make your job easier. We do not air condition our own shop, and we do that because we want to live in the world of the people who don't have AC and work in hot climates. So we will coat in 90 degree, 95 degree weather with 75, 80% humidity sometimes in the summertime. And with a skilled technician, that's not a problem. But I can tell you, if you have the ability to air condition your shop, or even we've seen some guys do some really ingenious things. We did a training course in North Carolina, and it was about 90 or 95 degrees, and it was 99% humidity. It was almost raining out without raining. It was crazy. When we were driving to the shop in the morning, it was not raining, but we had to put our windshield wipers on. That's the level of humidity. And what this guy did is he built a wire structure inside his shop, and then hung the insulation 4x8 insulation panels with the foil on the inside. And the first thing he said when we walked in, he says, "Don't lean on the walls. They're not actually walls." And he built this room, and I bet it cost him $500-$800 to build this room. And then he put a portable AC unit in there that he probably paid $300 or $400 for. And there was 10 of us in that room with that car, and we had that room, I think it was 62 degrees in there. So it was nice. Nobody wanted to leave the room. But little things like that, it's just going to make your life easier. We can coat in any temperature above freezing. And the colder it is, the longer that product flows. So you can just get away with a little bit more. But go ahead.
So the typical X KOTE process, the majority of it, like you said earlier, was prep. So when we say 2 to 4 hours, that could be 2 to 3.5 hours worth of prep and a half an hour worth of application. That sure pales in comparison to the 5, 10, or 20, or even 50 hours of paint correction we do typically, that a typical detailer does. Did you want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, like I said previously, X KOTE is only as good as the person applying it, and it's only as good as the prep. And you talk to any skilled painter, and he will tell you any good paint job is only as good as the prep underneath that paint. And it's no different than X KOTE. And fortunately, the prep part of X KOTE is very simple and very basic. And anybody who has any experience with a buffer period can learn this prep very easily. It's not difficult at all. Most cars, in fact, if we were to take a BMW 3 Series that was black, 5 years old, the guy takes it through a car wash once a week, the odd little damage, drag the box across the trunk, etc. That we would probably spend no more than an hour on the buffing process, and we simply just use a wool pad and a cutting compound, and we're not worried about holograms at all. It's going to fill that 110%. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get that paint clean and smooth, and that is the fastest way to do it. Then once we're done that buffing phase, it might take us an hour. We're going to thoroughly clean the car, dry it off, mask up all the moldings that we don't want to coat, run over it with a wax and grease remover, then we're going to coat it. We go home. The next day, it is a brand new paint job, cured, ready to ceramic coat or wax, or just give back to the customer.
Right. Yes. It looks amazing.
If I may again, guys.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. That's again because of the guys keep asking me. If you, Dave, or Mark, if you can elaborate a little bit more on that paint correction, because I think that's the most attractive part for them. Thank you.
Well, actually, that's if we look at the history of X KOTE and where we've been over this journey since 2004, and we initially got into this market, and we pitched X KOTE as a add-on service or an extra profit center for businesses, a way to make a little bit more money in your business. And if we look at ours, we have 2 technicians, 2 employees. We do over 500 cars a year. That's over $600,000 in revenue a year just for the one service. So we thought, what a great service to add on to a business. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, we took a really good look at where we are, and we thought, you know what? Any good product solves a problem. And the bigger the problem it solves, the better the product is, the more successful that product is. And we took a look at X KOTE and we said, where do we solve the biggest problem? And our answer was, the guys who are doing ceramic coatings are spending sometimes 20 to 30 hours on paint correction, where we can do a much better job of that in 4 to 5 hours and something you spend 25 hours on. So we solved the biggest problem. And that's when I reached out to David Elliott, and we had a long conversation, and I said, you know, this is what we do. And to be quite honest, I don't think Dave believed me, but he was very, very interested in what we did. And he's about a 3.5 hour drive from us. And at the end of the conversation, which went on for, I think, a couple hours, I think he said, I don't mean to insult you, but it just seems too good to be true. And I have to see this with my own 2 eyes. I've been doing this for decades. I said, come on up. And when he showed up, we had a Porsche Cayenne. I think it was about a 5-year-old car, black, and 2-year-old BMW. It was an M5, dark blue, rental, X lease return. And we coated those 2 cars, and we blew Dave's mind. That Porsche, we did first, and I remember he timed my technician. It took him 12 minutes to coat it, start to finish. And it transformed in front of his eyes. And that's when Dave said, we need to talk. We need to have a serious talk about what we can do. And at that point, we sort of injected ourselves into that ceramic coating market. And the rest is kind of history. Over the last year, we have certified over 100 new technicians, and we are now scaling to the point, besides this thing we're dealing with worldwide, this pandemic, we're at the point now that if this is over in the next 2 or 3 months, we're probably going to hit 200 or 300 this year, and probably double that the following year. So we've really found our place in the market. And what we found is that we solved the biggest problem with ceramic coaters, because, I won't mention brand names, but one of the biggest brands in the world, if not the biggest brand, I was at the SEMA show, and I had an opportunity to talk to the CEO of that company. And I asked him a simple question. I said, what is your single biggest barrier to market? And he said, the price point that my installers have to charge. And I said, okay, well, let's break this down. What causes them to charge that high price? And he said, it's the paint correction. He says they have to spend so much time doing the paint correction before the actual coating that they have to charge that much. And I walked away and I said, bingo, there we go. And long story short, the biggest barrier to any one of your, detail centers, the biggest barrier to your market is the fact that you need to charge that price for that ceramic coating. And we've all been down that road when the customer says how much, to do that Tahoe, and you tell them $2,800 or $2,500, and they go, oh, what? Yeah, because it takes that long to do it. So we've already found our niche in the market, and we're really excited about where that's going to go in the next year or two.
Real quick, Mark, why don't you tell us why we only did 100 installers last year, and why training is important? I was going to wait for the end to work on this, but I think we're here at the
Well, I think the biggest answer is this, is we are all about quality and not quantity. And we take 2 full days of our time of intense hands-on training. And our goal at the end of that training session is that the attendee has a very clear understanding of the do's and don'ts and the basic principles of X KOTE and how to apply that X KOTE. From there, forward, he has to go home and practice to become an expert. He's going to be able to X KOTE cars, but like anything else, he's going to have to go home and practice. It's a very short learning curve if you go home and do some cars. But the answer to the question is, we are more about quality than quantity. What we've done over the last year is we have looked at our training course, and we've optimized everything that we do So that will enable us to do more training courses over that period. We were doing about one a month last year, and we're going to bump that up to 2 or 3 a month this year.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Let's see. Let me move you over here. Why use X KOTE? Again, we've already covered a lot of this already. Typical paint correction actually reduces the thickness of paint or clear coat, but X KOTE actually adds clear coat. And a lot of times you couldn't do with a polisher what we can do with X KOTE. So this truck right here was, quote, lot ready from the dealership, yet it was swirled and hologrammed to pieces. We made it look brand new. Okay, here is a Cadillac I bought for $1,200 and halved it. And you can see the difference between a 2006 and the other side's brand new because we X KOTEd it. Okay, here we go. What do we have here? I have a couple questions for you guys. You know, do you want to make more money and work on more cars at the same amount of time? Do you want to drastically cut down your paint correction time? Do you want to learn how to make cars look brand new again using X KOTE? Those are questions that, you know, I'm definitely asking you. You guys are the target market, and we want to work with you on that. This car was in Pittsburgh. We had rotary polished it pretty hard. The door has been X KOTEd, and the other door had not. And I thought it was a pretty good indication on how all of the buffer trails just disappear. Okay, how much does it pay? Do you want to go into this, Mark?
Sure. So if you look at what we charge on an average, it's probably $1,000 give or take for an average job. And if a guy comes in and he has a 2005 Honda Civic, and you know, it's not a Ferrari, but it's his car, and he still wants his car to look good, we'll charge that person $795. That's $800. We'll spend 2 hours total time on that car, maybe 2.5 on the outside. So we make really good money. Most of the vehicles that we do in our center are nice vehicles, luxury vehicles. We do a lot of collectible classic cars, a lot of exotic cars. On those, generally, the prices are up over $1,000 to around $1,500. And we may spend an extra hour on those vehicles. They're not, the time doesn't double on those vehicles. It's probably an extra hour. On the wholesale end of it, you guys, if you're doing dealer cars, we find that wholesale pricing ranges anywhere from $500 to $750. We have a body shop in Utah that does probably, I would think he does 225, probably 50 to 60 X KOTEs a month. It's all dealer work, and he charges $750 straight across the board, whether it's a big truck or a small car. Most of the stuff he does is trucks, being in Utah. It's in Ogden, Utah. He charges extra to do touch-ups on top of that. I think it's $50 or $75 to do rock chips and touch-ups like that. But he charges $750. He makes really good money. If you're focused on retail like we are, we do 95% of our work in our own center is retail. We have a couple of dealers that send us work, but we charge them. These are dealers that do high-end cars. We also have a couple dealers that send us brand new cars that are damaged in shipping or lot damage, and they have to be literally brand new when they're delivered to the customer. We do that, but we don't really do any dirt lots, as we call them. Cars, you know, dealers that sell $3,000 cars, they just don't want to pay the money. But if you're doing dealer work, you can expect to get $500 to $750, $500 to $750 per unit. If you're doing retail, probably most of the cars are going to be $1,000 to $1,500. You're going to do the odd car for $800. And if you compare, you know, you've got 2 to 4 hours that you get paid that on a retail basis, 1,000. Let's call it $1,200 as an average. 2 to 4 hours, and then you get paid on top of that for the ceramic coatings. Whereas what you get paid to do paint correction, the same amount of money, you're spending 5 to 25 hours. And if it's that $1,500 you're charging for the paint correction, you're probably spending 25 hours. Ceramic coatings, we typically charge $500 to $600 on top of the X Kote. And I was speaking to a guy a couple days ago, and when I told him that, he said, "Why so cheap?" He says, "We charge way more than that." I said, "Yeah, but you're charging for the paint correction, correct?" I said, "It takes us all of maybe 2 hours to go around it and do the ceramic coating after we've done the paint correction. So we're charging $500 to $600 for a couple hours of work. It's really good money. We're making really good money. Don't forget that when you're doing that $2,000 job, that ceramic coating job, most of that money is dedicated towards the paint correction. We've already done that with the X Kote. Now we're charging an extra $500 or $600, which does sound really cheap on top of that. And it's a very easy upsell on top of that to do that ceramic coating. The whole job together, we might spend 5 hours on that job. And we're, you know, on that Tahoe, for example, we would charge $1,800, $1,900. We'd keep it under $2,000, including an X Kote and a 5-year ceramic coating. So we're giving the customer incredible value for that money, absolutely incredible value. And we're doing it in about a fifth of the time that it takes to do it otherwise, and charge them $2,000 or $2,500. We win, the customer wins, the customer couldn't be happier. You get more referrals. You're putting through literally 3 times the amount, 4 times the amount of work through your shop in a day. It's a win-win-win situation. And you actually end up with a better end result. If you've X-coated the vehicle versus doing a paint correction, you end up with a better result. So it's a win on every front.
So you're saying, so I talk to a lot of detailers, and they tell me their paint correction goes from half a day to 2 or 3 days. But what you're telling us is that we can do cars, we could do 2 to 4 cars in one day, not 1 car in 2 days. Is that right?
Well, I can tell you this, is that my head technician at my center can do that Tahoe that we saw and a Honda Civic in one day by himself, start to finish. End of story.
And that's about
$3,500,
right?
One technician. The next day, he will spend, by noon, he's got them both ceramic coated. And those jobs, the 2 of them, are going to pay about $3,000. A day and a half's work, one technician, $3,000. Do the math. I can guarantee you that none of you listening to this make that kind of money in your center. And I can tell you that our customers are among the fussiest and among the happiest.
If I may, guys, Dave, can you unmute Thomas Sanders? Because he's new with that. You just trained him. And I want to get him on the board to tell everyone else the experiences with the dealership, as you were describing, Mark.
We got Thomas. Talk to us, Thomas.
Yeah, let me turn my earbuds on.
Okay. You know, or we can do question and answer at the very end. Would you prefer that?
Yeah, we'll do that, Dave. That's fine.
All right.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
we're going to do some question and answer at the end. Is that all right for you?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Let's see. We're going to the next slide here. And so this was a 1998 chalk white
Single stage
paint here. And this is my accountant's car. He the original owner. He was completely blown away when he saw it. He almost cried. There's one dent in the front. He knew every scratch. He knew everything on it, and he couldn't believe his eyes when he was done, when we gave him this. So here we go. What are we talking about here? What you will learn in training. So training is really important. This isn't an intuitive product. I can't just hand it to you and say, here, go put this on the car. It's just, it's just not that kind of party. So Mark, did you want to tell us about what you get when we train people?
Yeah. So we're going to teach you right from the beginning how to, first of all, qualify the vehicle and do a walk around of the vehicle and price the vehicle. and then how to clean and prep the vehicle properly, and the most efficient way to do that without cutting corners and sacrificing quality of that prep. We're going to teach you how to mix the activator with the X KOTE, which is very simple. We've made it almost idiot proof. And how to hold and use the applicator and actually apply that clear coat to the panel. We're going to teach you how to map out each panel and the car. In other words, where do I start, on which panel, and what panel do I do next, and when do I do it, and all the application techniques that go with it. And we're going to show you when things don't go as planned, which with anything it never does, how to fix those problems and when to fix it. And the nice thing about X KOTE is you cannot ruin a paint job. Absolutely impossible to ruin a paint job. Whatever happens, whatever we do with X KOTE, we can undo. It doesn't matter how big of a mistake, how big of a mess you make, you can always undo it and start over. In most times, we teach you how to fix that panel right as you do it. In other words, if you do a fender and you don't like what you see, you just immediately do it over again. It's not like spraying a car. When you get a run or you get fish eyes or a sag, you're kind of doomed. You're starting over, or you're waiting till it's cured to fix it. We can fix it on the spot instantly, and that's part of what we teach you in the training course. We teach you a lot of do's and don'ts that prevent those mistakes, and that's the biggest thing we teach you is what not to do so you don't run into those mistakes. We're also going to go over marketing and how to market yourself, how to get those X KOTE customers. And it is really, really basic. And when you take the training course, we're going to spend some time on that. And you're going to have a really good understanding of how easy it is to integrate this into your business. You're not really doing anything different than you are if you really think about it. You're still doing paint correction. You're just doing it better, and you're doing it faster, and you're making it more profitable. You're not doing anything different to the customer. You're still filling the exact same need for the same customer. You're just doing it more efficiently. You're doing it better, and you're doing it more profitable. Other than that, there's going to be a lot of questions and whatnot that are going to come up during the training course. It works out really good in a group scenario because we get a lot of varied questions from a lot of people that would apply to just about all of them. I'll go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, we also cover, what markets to go after, how to get the right customers, what to charge. We already covered a lot of that stuff. But basically, this is just not a product I can just hand to you and say, hey, go put this on the car. It's just not that kind of party. We need to train you in person.
Yes, and to elaborate on that, of course, we always get people that come to us and they say, listen, I've been doing this for 30 years, and why don't you just send me a can of it and I'll try it out? Well, this we know. I can teach a monkey to do this. I can give it to a monkey and he can put it on a car. But if you want a car to look like factory, you need training. And it doesn't matter what your skill level is. It doesn't matter what your experience is. Your experience with X KOTE is 0. And everything we do in X KOTE is completely backwards to anything you've ever learned in your life. And at the end of the training course, you're going to walk away from that course and go, that was intense, but I am ready to do this. It's going to be an eye-opener. So it doesn't matter what your skill level is. A high skill level and a high level of experience and expertise is going to allow you to catch on to this all that faster, but it's not going to be a reason that you could actually take this. You would make a mess of it. You would call us back. I would spend the next hour explaining how to fix it, and you would never buy from us again. So that's why training is required. We spend, as a company, our single largest expense is training, and we don't charge for it. So if there was not a good reason for it, trust me, we would not do it.
Great. And so when we do training, here's the slide on what you actually get when you do go to training with us. 2 full days of technical and practical and hands-on application training. when you go home, we either send it if you flew, and if you drove, then you have enough product to go home and practice on 5 or 6 cars, banner, t-shirt, stickers, and then I provide you a lot of detailed products to test out if you haven't already tried them. But most of all, obviously you see Mark here, he's got a couple years behind all of this, does a lot of cars in the shop. Between him and I and other people that we have in the class there, we have decades of advice and ways to do things. I had a little resistance this weekend in Phoenix. It was like, why is there so many rules? Why do I got to turn my hand a certain way? Why do I got to do all these things? We wouldn't be doing this if we haven't figured out the right way to do this after 16 years. There's just a certain technique that just works better. So we want to teach you the right way to do it versus just, hey, just put it on the car and we'll call it good. And we don't do that. We want you to be as successful as possible. So the training is $795. We have a $50 deposit.
Dave, the training is not $795.
Yes, you're right.
We don't charge for training, and we don't charge license fees, and we don't charge royalties, and we don't charge franchise fees. We don't even charge for training. To get started with Xcote, you are buying a startup package. The startup package is $795, and it includes enough Xcote to coat 5 to 6 vehicles. You're going to get an Xcote banner, a t-shirt, some flyers and stickers. You're also going to get a whole array of samples of Pearl Nano products, and there's no obligation to buy any of those products in the future. We're going to give you samples just to try. We just add that in. It's $1,000 value worth of product. We're selling it to you for $795. That's your startup package. And in return, we take 2 days of our time and train you. And we also give all of our technicians follow-up support, technical support, as well as a dealer login that's going to have all sorts of resources to go back to as far as technique, application, before and after questions, videos, all your logos for your advertising, brochures, all sorts of marketing materials that you can use, you can go back to. Go ahead, Dave.
So just to clarify, the training is free, but the startup package is not free. So, okay. And that's one heck of a motorcycle or something.
We're renovating our office, so I apologize.
Wow. Okay, great. All right, so look at this motley crew here, and there, and then there. And here's Danny Beers in DC. And we have, oh my God, look at this guy right here. All right, so basically, if you guys are ready to rumble, you can go to Xcote USA and sign up here. There's a $50 deposit, and once we get over all this craziness, we'll be scheduling the classes, hopefully 2 to 3 a month in different locations around the country.
Yeah, so to elaborate on that, about a week and a half ago, we had to postpone all our training sessions because, half the country's locked down and the travels are restricted. So we decided, instead of having people pay that $795 up front to secure their spot, we would lower that to $50, and it's a minimal commitment. And what that does is it puts you at the front of the line as far as picking the classes and the dates that you want. So when we do actually have dates, we'll announce those, and we're going to contact the people that have given that $50 deposit in order that they gave it to us, first come, first serve, to choose their class. It is a 100% fully refundable deposit. If you change your mind, if we don't have a class that accommodates you as far as logistics or the timing of it, it's 100% refundable. All it does is it tells us that if you're serious enough to give us your $50, we can contact you and put you to the top of the list. So I encourage you to go to that xkoteusa.com. It's x-KOTE USA.com, and go there and go to the registration. and you'll see there's a $50 payment. You will be on the list, and as soon as we have training dates, we will go through that list and start contacting people, and you will have your choice of training sessions, dates, places, etc. And we're going to be doing training currently in Pittsburgh, in Tacoma. We will soon have a training center in Texas, in Florida, possibly in Alabama, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles. So we're working on those as we speak, but we will have several training facilities around the country.
That's awesome.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so I think, and then we're to the end here. So and if you guys want to email me, dave@pearlnano.com, I'm going to get you a free sample of our new spray-on ceramic. And here's that same car that Paul did in 12 minutes in front of me. That was pretty amazing. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to unmute everybody, and we can take some turns on some questions and answers. How's that? Okay, we have a lot of guys here. Right. Okay, so it's a little noisy, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Who would like to go first? How about Thomas Sanders? How we doing?
Hey, I would mute everybody back.
Okay. Except
Joel?
you.
Are you good? Can you hear me?
I'm good. Yes. Go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right. So I don't know if everybody in here has already been trained or thinking about being trained. I've been in this industry since I was 12. I'm 45. We can definitely take this product to the next level. After our third car during training, our install, we were already having, 80% of the car was perfection. And that's from 3 guys that were learning at one time. So definitely with buying into the training, the product, the whole kit and caboodle, I'll talk to you guys about anything that you ever want, any kind of advice, just reach out to me. Let's talk about dealerships for a minute, because instantly we need to get our money back. And that's the way everybody looks at it. If I spend $795, I want to make $1,800 next week. So in my mind, I can balance it out. So when you come back with your product, use that product wisely. You're going to be learning. The more you do, the better you're going to get. So after 3 or 4 cars that you've done in training or right after training, we're getting so much better now every car. So take that product that you have and don't give it all to your best friend or the guy across the street. Be wise. So in the beginning, we want to set up the dealerships is going to be your easiest avenue. When you set a dealership up, you set it up for 2 reasons. One, you set it up because of volume of work. But number 2, that's the fastest way for you to grow a reputation ever. It grows just like we're seeing right now with this virus. It spreads. If you do a car at the dealership, that lady tells her husband, that lady tells her cousin, nephew. So with the product that you have, and we know you're going to be learning, go to the high-end dealerships is where I'd start. Ford, Chevrolet, not high-end, but the big guys. And reach out to the used car manager. You reach out to him because, or her, their job is to go to auction and buy cars that they can make money off of, or either give prices on appraisals for trade-in cars, and they want to buy those cars as cheap as possible and sell them as high as possible. So now you have that product to play with, and you can tell them, this will be your 4th, 5th, and 6th car after training. So if you'll do that technique, they're going to be blown away. Tomorrow they get a car back that they were appraising that low ball value, and now they're going to ask top value for it. Most of the dealerships are paying $150, whether in labor or outsourcing now. Most of them use a detail shop in your area. They'll give them about $150 a piece in Dothan, where I live. And they're going to do a quick polish, a hand wax, a vacuum, and they're going to clean the glass. So if you start out at $550 a unit, but go ahead and vacuum it and clean the glass, they're looking at it as they're only spending $400 with you because they're saving $150. So it's going to be easier for you to land those jobs at that dealership that way in the beginning, and then work it from there, and you'll see it blow up overnight because of the volume you'll be doing. Make sense?
Total sense. Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, that's awesome. And just real quick, and since I left there last week, how are things going since then?
Corona.
Oh, that's right. Everything is locked down. So, okay, yeah.
Well, we're booked the next 3 weeks, but we sanitize all the vehicles and we lock the doors.
Right. Okay, no problem, no problem. So, how about anybody else? Who wants to go next? Raise a hand. No? All right, here we go. All right, we got Anthony. Can you hear me?
Did you see me?
I can see you too. Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then I got a question.
Okay.
You're stating that you don't need to correct the paint before you apply this.
Well, I'll elaborate on that. What we do is paint correction. So X Kote is paint correction on steroids, a truckload of steroids, a semi-truckload of steroids. So what we are doing is paint correction in a sense. So the traditional paint correction, no. What we are doing is we are spending a short amount of time with a wool pad, a rotary buffer, and a cutting compound. And our goal is not to make the paint look good. So we are not correcting the paint. What we are doing is we are getting that paint clean and smooth as possible in the shortest amount of time. And that's how we achieve that. On an average car, we're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour and a half, that process. And then we clean the vehicle very thoroughly, dry it off, tape it, run over it with a wax and grease remover, and then we're going to coat it. The coating part of it, once you get proficient at this, it's probably going to take you an average of about 20 minutes per vehicle. It's a very short process. The prep is most of it. So in a sense, are we doing paint correction? Well, the whole process is paint correction. Are we doing traditional paint correction? No. Our goals when we actually do the buffing part of it with the rotary, we are not trying to make the paint look good. We are trying to get that paint smooth and contaminant free as possible in the shortest amount of time.
And the reason why he says contaminant free, if you leave those contaminants, the pollution from the air, the soaps, the silicones, they pop up through the surface because of the high solvent count of the X Kote, and it doesn't look all that great. So we take the rotary polisher, cut all that down, clean it, X Kote it, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Does that answer your question, Anthony?
Yes.
Can I answer on that question for a second?
Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
So what's actually happened, and believe me, we correct a lot of cars. Instead of having to mow down to the bottom of that scratch with a polisher, what you're doing, the product actually self-levels. So if you have scratches left from the rotary, whenever you apply the product, it fills all those in and levels off on the top of it. So that's what he's meaning. It takes the place of paint correction.
So basically, it's a filler.
It's a permanent clear coat, but it self levels. So as it self levels, it fills in and bonds to all those scratches, which by filling in, they go away.
Think of it this way. A good way to explain it is this, is if you took a vehicle and you brought it into your shop and you ran around it for an hour and hammered on it with a rotary polisher, you know, you see the "my guy does it cheaper" details.
Yeah.
And you can see the holograms from a mile away. Okay, so if you did that and then you took it to a really high-end quality body shop and said, I want you to re-clear coat this car, and they brought it back to you with a $5,000 bill, we achieve the same thing in 20 minutes after we do that process. So the buffing part of it is not really paint correction. It's the prep to get that panel ready for the X Kote. The X Kote is the paint correction. We're going to put a layer of a really high quality 2-component clear coat, just like the factory clear coat, but a better quality of clear on top of that. And it's going to fill all the holograms, all the deep scratches, all those defects, and level out completely flat, flatter than you could ever spray on. and leave that with a brilliant, nice, deep shine.
Great.
Virtually brand new paint.
Any more there, Anthony?
Yeah. So basically, okay. What about with the cars that come in that I have come in every once in a while? They're wanting the
Oh,
You're breaking up.
clear
Yeah, we lost.
coat failure.
Oh,
No, it's not going to. I got you're breaking up, but I did get your question. Cars that come in with clear coat failure. This is not a replacement for clear coat. This is a restoration of
Can
clear coat.
help with that, or is that something that a body shop would not?
That's a body shop. Yeah, we cannot replace that clear coat. We're only putting on about 5 or 6 microns. You need 50 microns of clear to replace that. It is not a replacement. It may make it look maybe 25% better, maybe 50% better, but it's certainly not any great means of repairing that. If the clear coat is peeling off, failing and peeling off, that's a body shop. You need a body shop. It's not really any use.
okay, so
All right. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to go to another question there, Anthony, and I'm on a time limit myself, so I appreciate those questions. That's awesome. Let's see who wants to go next. We got Oliver. Oliver, you're up.
Yeah. It's I'm a accredited detailer from a ceramic coating branded famous brand, and I'm the only technical center accredited in Tahiti.
Great.
Okay. As you mentioned,
was there any quick questions that we could answer over the call here?
yes. In fact, it's more about the training for me. I will be interested. So
Well, okay. What I would suggest is, if you have not already filled out a dealer inquiry, I would fill out that dealer inquiry. And we don't have any means to train anybody in Tahiti right now, unless you're willing to travel. But that will happen, and it could happen this year. So my suggestion is this: is when we get a dealer inquiry that is in a country that we have not yet developed or gone into, we keep that inquiry, and when we do get to that country or close, we will contact those people and say, we are now available to train in this country. And we're not rushing this process at all, and we are not in any rush. If we go into a country, we do it exactly like we're doing in the United States or Canada or France or Europe or the UK or any other country. When the timing is right, and when we have everything in place, and that means a solid support structure and training structure in place prior, then we will go ahead and train in that country. So if you haven't filled out a dealer inquiry, just go to X-KOTE USA, xkoteusa.com, and fill out a dealer inquiry, and we will log that, and we will get in touch with you as soon as we do have someone in your country that can train you.
Perfect.
Right, Oliver?
Okay, thank you.
Right. And I'm looking forward to personally training you in Tahiti.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. Hey, okay, here we go. We got, Thomas Sanders. I can't unmute you. Why not? Hold on. It's not working.
I said I'll go to Tahiti.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
You're too pale complected. You'll burn up.
We'll be drawing straws on that one.
All right. All right. And we're going to go to Dam in the UK. Is that where you're at?
Yes, I'm in the UK.
Do you have any questions for us before we go today?
Yeah, so I spoke with Mark a while back and spoke with.
Oh no, we lost you.
Have a word with Shane from the UK and Mark, and we will take it from there. And definitely, I will speak with Shane, and whenever all these madness go away, I will attend one of those trainings. And as you said, at the beginning, I have to say it to believe it, but definitely.
Right. Okay. it's frozen, but okay, are you still there? Okay. So are you still there, Dan? Okay, I can't hear it. Oh. I can't hear your voice, but I think we're going to go to Lee. Hey, Lee, how we doing?
Not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Great. Where are you located again?
I'm in the UK as well, so I know Shane Hargreaves, who does it in the UK.
Great.
He sent me the message to join to listen to it.
Do you have any quick questions for us while we're here?
Well, what compounds is it that you're using then? Is it just like a medium cut compound with a wool pad for the prep work?
It is I would say it's more of a medium to heavy cut, and Shane has a very good product, his cut that you can use. We are not worried about holograms, so we want to use a compound that's going to get the job done as fast as possible. And you know, when choosing a cutting compound, it's always a balance between the amount of holograms you're going to create versus how fast the job is going to go. In our case, pick the fastest one because it's going to cover all of those holograms.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a compound that we use that it's a diminishing abrasive. It works great with the wool pad, and but there are other compounds out there like it. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so that's all. I was wondering what compound it would actually use, if it was a special compound or just like a medium to heavy cut compound.
Yeah, Shane's got some good products. He can definitely recommend the proper one for you there.
Great.
Yeah, so I use stuff off Shane anyway, so that's sound. Cheers.
Is there any more questions for you there, Lee?
No, that's it. So I've been waiting to get booked on. He's been doing a lot further down south to where I am. So I'm keeping contact with him to use his products anyway. I use his ceramics and stuff. So it's just getting him to get a training that's further up north because he's doing a lot further down south.
Great. Okay, cool. Thanks for being on the call here. I'm gonna go to David and we'll get back with you, okay?
All right, cheers. Thanks very much.
All right. Oh, how come it doesn't unmute? There we go. David, how we doing?
Good. Pretty much all my questions were answered for the most part. The only one question I do have is once I'm trained, I'm a technician, what's the price point of the product moving forward after that?
Mark? Oh, unmute.
Mute.
Okay,
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so depends on the size of the vehicle, but you're basically around 125 to 175 per car.
Okay.
So, you know, it's in line with, I would say, the majority of the ceramic coatings, and some of the ceramic coatings are far more expensive than that. And if you compare what does it cost in materials to spray a car in a body shop, it's 1/10. It's literally 1/10 of the cost. So yeah, you go through a very small amount. On a small car, you're going to go through 4 ounces. On a large vehicle, you're going to go through, 6 ounces, 7 ounces. So the cost, approximately 125 to 175 per vehicle. When you first start doing this, you're not going to be as efficient, and you're going to end up doing panels over to redo mistakes and stuff. So you generally, you'll go through a little bit more product, but once you get a half a dozen cars in, you should be around that price point range, 125 to 175 per car, depending on the size of the vehicle.
Okay. So the container that you guys sell is probably about what, 10 ounces or something like that?
It's 8 ounces, and that will do. You could do that Tahoe and a small car, like a little Yaris or something. You could do those 2 vehicles with that, or you could do a small SUV like an M3 or an X3, and you could do a 3 Series BMW with 1 cam. That cam's $250.
Okay. Reasonable enough.
All right.
Yeah, it's very reasonable.
Yeah. I'm like I say, all my other questions throughout your thing were answered. So yeah, no, that was the only one I had.
Excellent.
We're going to go with Pavel, and then we got to cut it short here. Actually, it's been 1 hour and 23 minutes, so it's not exactly short. But and we will get back with all you guys in the very near future. And we're going to go to Pavel. Tell us what you thought about all this.
As I said in my very first video after you trained me, I'm still blown away. I'm actually pissed off I can't go back, and work on it. Because as Thomas realized before, Thomas Sanders, before he even been trained by you, Dave, he knew that it's a good opportunity. It's just, seriously, from detailer's point of view, the application, yes, it's specific. But in overall, it's pretty straightforward. Monkey can do that. That's all what I'm going to say.
It's a little bit backwards than your normal paint correction.
Yeah, that part. When you guys grab the rotary with the wool pad, say it's a training class, go to the town, do what you want, go crazy.
We do have a methodical way of doing it, but yeah, if you don't want to leave any.
Yeah, this is seriously very important. When you will come to the training class, forget everything, and I'm going to say again, forget everything about ceramic coating applications. Leave it aside, because you're going to need a lot of room in your head. So make a room.
All right, excellent. Hey, I got to get moving here. Mark, did you have any last words?
I did. And I want to thank all you guys for joining us today. Sorry for the little bit of technical problems we had, but thanks for joining us. And I just want to say, if you guys want to get in on this opportunity, there's absolutely no pressure. We take a $50 deposit, and that just secures your spot to get training. And you guys in the UK, I'm going to talk to Shane about that same program. I don't know what he's got in place for that, but get your place in line. And when the world goes back to normal, and it's going to in the next little while, this isn't going to last forever. When the world gets back to normal and we can actually announce training dates, the people who put that deposit down are at the top of the list, and you get your choice of when and where you will be trained. And if you change your mind for whatever reason, that deposit is 100% refundable. It's a very small commitment, and it just gets your place in line. So I would encourage you to go do that. You're going to have a lot of time to think about it, to do some research. At least it gets you to the top of the list. And I want to thank you guys again for joining us. Pleasure meeting you. Feel free to reach out to Shane in the UK, or myself, or David Elliott. Any of you guys that know Thomas Sanders or Pavel, reach out to them. They've both been certified. Those two are going to give you a very, different perspective than us. They're guys new at it, and they're going to give you more of an experience what it's like to be a new guy doing this, and what that entails. So again, thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. We took a lot of your time today, and we appreciate it. And we will talk to you very soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Mark.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.